Welcome everyone again to On the Bench live from Yamaha Guitars, and I am joined by one of my favorites. I say it to everybody. Today I mean it. Just kidding. But Fish Herring, Michael Fish Herring, longtime Yamaha artist, wonderful human being, incredible player, technician, and just overall musical genius. Welcome, man. Thanks for joining me.
That's a lot to live up to. I'm going to be working on that for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Yeah, I got to give you the full Carson, right? Live from Reseda. Yeah. So how you been, man? What's going on?
Doing good. Been keeping surprisingly busy.
Great.
And, it's been pretty. It's definitely interesting times in the world. It's trying times. It's troubling times. It's and it's changing times. So,
for sure.
Trying to stay on top of all that and make music at the same time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are stressed right now, and being in the music industry, it's also very stressful considering people can't play their gigs. Right. But there's a lot of social unrest, and rightfully so. I think we've always been supportive and really want to speak to those powerful causes that really need to happen, and change in this country does need to happen. But I mean, I think you're always a powerful voice, and have worked with so many different artists, have this really big diverse discography of just classical, jazz, all this stuff. And I really wanted to talk to you about that. And also for everybody listening, if you want to ask us some questions about gear or artists or life on the road or whatever it is, please, write your comments in. We'll pop them up and we'll answer your questions the best we can. So yeah, I guess let's start from the beginning of, how you got started playing music. I know a little bit about your background, but not everybody does. And I'd love to hear more about it.
I got started, I grew up in Philadelphia. I got started in music because of my grandfather, who was probably my first influence on me musically. He was a violinist. He was a career musician, so I kind of knew it was a job.
That's
just
cool.
From him explaining to me that the union meant something, and that and that playing music was more than just art, more than just a hobby. It was a job.
Yeah.
So I always looked at it that way, and I never thought about any other job existing for me, except for maybe I think I wanted to be a jockey.
Oh yeah.
I was really little. I wanted to ride horses.
That's cool.
But that never materialized. I think the only other thing I was really into when I was a kid was archaeology.
That's cool.
That always interested me, and different civilizations and cultures always that still interests me. But someday I'll learn more.
Yeah, man, that's super cool. I mean, I think horses are awesome. My wife and I, we love going to the Gentle Barn up north in Stillmar area, I think, and there's another animal rescue place. But I'm so afraid to get on top of one because I just feel like I'm too tall, and if I come crashing down, it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be a sad day for me.
Well, they're very their horses are gigantic, and they're really, really smart, and they care. They actually care. So I think you'd be safe. I've ridden a couple times here and there, and it's amazing.
That's so cool.
But I was not cut out to be a jockey, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, you could still try. That would be cool. But that's cool. So you learned that it was a legit job, and you can support your family with it. And clearly, I mean, you have. Just to go over some of the folks that you worked with, Nas, Tupac, Elton John, Mariah Carey, Leanne Rimes, Celine Dion, Cisco, Drew Hill, and you're also working on some new projects with a lady named Money, Munny, and Sita Garrett, correct? Am I saying that correctly? Sorry, people have a hard time pronouncing my name. I have a hard time pronouncing others as well, so I feel the pain. But yeah, I mean, you've worked with all these folks, and if I'm not mistaken, you started playing violin at an early age, right?
Yeah, violin was first. Then, but I think while I was playing violin and learning how to read music and learning classical music, I was listening to the Beatles and listening to Hendrix and listening to the Stones and listening to classic rock and stuff that was, then hearing like, I found an Ahmad Jamal record in my mom's closet, which totally twisted my brain. Still kind of freaks me out realizing that my mom had an Ahmad Jamal record, and it blew my mind. Then I got into, jazz, and it twisted me, and it changed everything. And Frank, it just.
Love Zappa. But actually, Zappa, I got turned on to by the guy who's the best man in my wedding. His name's James Robertson. He's a film score guy. And we met at Berkeley guitar sessions, like summer camp when we were like 14, 15. And he's a huge Zappa guy. And I know that you've been a fan. It's just his like amazing, crazy guitar playing and like musical mind, and you're so prolific. And I see that in you too, where you are very prolific. You are constantly working on something. And you could see, everyone that Fish is in the studio at his house right now. You got the most killing setup, tons of guitars.
Just wait till it's done. Wait till we build the studio.
Yeah, I know.
This is the newer version of it, which over the last couple of years I've been working out of this small room. But then once we expand, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah,
that's so killer. So you started listening to like all this classic rock and, learning about jazz, learning about all sorts of different types.
I wanted to play guitar. I think I had a guitar. I think my brother tried to play. So my grandfather started teaching me guitar too, along with violin. And then I started taking lessons, and, from other people. I started studying with a guy who would pull up to the house in this orange van, and he was probably high. I would imagine.
Sure.
Because it was 70s.
Did he have a dog and bell bottoms and a crew?
He definitely wore bell bottoms. I don't know who, if there might have been people in his van. I don't know, but then I started studying classical guitar too at the same time. So I'm learning from the local rock dude, and whose name was Bill. And Bill taught me the songs that I wanted to learn, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I went to Settlement Music School in Philly, which was it was more known for classical and jazz. Grover Washington Jr. went to that school. Stanley Clarke went to that school.
That's amazing.
John Blake went to that school. There's a lot of amazing players that came out of there. So it's got a really cool legacy. So I studied classical there, and I got into jazz, and I connected with the Pieces of a Dream guys there, and just great. It was kind of like between that and high school, it was kind of like a college education in music.
Yeah. So it was a performing arts school.
Yeah, I went to the Performing Arts High School in Philly.
That's cool. Yeah, I wanted to do that too. That's super awesome. I mean, when you're immersed at that young of an age, I think you really kind of like, it really sinks in, and your talent really kind of rises to a whole other level. That's why I think, the importance of music education in schools, unfortunately, we've seen it kind of come down. But
it's gotten lost, which is a terrible thing, because kids need music.
Yeah, and I think just humans
need art, not just music, but kids need art. They need to.
Yeah, and when I had a really great chemistry teacher in high school, and he was a really great piano player, and he would tell us about how the left and right halves of the brain would build connections because you're interfacing, both sides of your body to play an instrument. And I think that goes a little bit for a guitar, maybe not as, independent or dexterous as a piano might, or even the drums, right? But I think it is really important to have that kind of musical background. It's really great for getting people also into like those STEM subjects as well, like the sciences and things. It like makes you think a little bit differently, a little bit more maybe analytical or, in depth. And I think it's only a positive, right? And I know, especially for me, it kept me out of trouble in high school, where I would go into the, after school to go to jazz band, or, I'd go home and practice a lot instead of, getting into trouble, perhaps, with nothing to do. I think, a lot of kids play sports, and that's really important too. But I think,
sports can kill you.
Well, if you hang out with some musicians, that could kill you too, right?
Yeah. And music can get you in trouble. I got into my share of trouble when I was a kid.
Sure, but generally it's a very.
I never heard anybody.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, so you go to like performing arts school, and then so I think I read also that like you were playing violin and touring a little bit with violin, or was it mostly just guitar right off the bat?
Yeah, just guitar. I think I was probably like 14 when I did my first paying gig.
Oh wow! Hey, you got paid. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then probably 16 the first time I actually did a gig outside of Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, and getting I think it was a pickup truck that we drove to Detroit in. But yeah, and it was through relationships from school. It was my friend Joey, and who's still my best friend to this day.
That's awesome.
The relationships you form making music stay with you forever, and that's.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree with that, because I mean, I went to school. I left my high school. 18. I went to college, and all my college friends, we all moved out here to LA together, pretty much. And the same crew I've been hanging out with since I was a freshman in college. So it's like we all played music together, and we all support each other. And right now, especially, it's been very tough for a lot of them. And I do see actually a lot of my friends doing some really cool stuff. One of my friends, Pete, was doing this thing, Amplify LA, where he's bringing like battery powered PAs to a lot of the protests and stuff, which I thought was like super cool. And like engineer friends that are really like kind of dedicating time and, writing music and things of that nature to kind of support the cause. So, I'm so with that. I thought it was so cool. And yeah, the friendships you make, they are long lasting. And I know you have tons of friends in this industry. I mean, you've played with everyone. So
when I first came out to LA, I didn't really know anybody out here. After I had been on the road for several years, and just, I think I said to the tour manager, "Hey, when we take a break, fly me back to LA, because I live there now." And I didn't have a place here. I was living out of suitcases, and I had my gear, and that was it. And
it's awesome.
The relationships that I made when I first came out here are still solid.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean,
music definitely keeps things together. It's an amazing glue that can keep her,
yeah.
Once people come and go, but I'm
sure.
Certain type of people stick together, and you can work together and then not see each other for 10 years and then work together again. And it's an amazing community. I don't know what else is like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about like every year we all meet up at the NAMM Show, right? So it's like you see everybody at least once a year, and it's like rock and roll high school reunion.
Right. It's the best thing about NAMM Show is seeing old friends.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it's like we're all kind of there because all the companies are promoting new products and we're always there. But really the best part for me is like I get to see everyone, where some folks, they live on the East Coast or they are in Europe or something, and I don't get to see them very often.
Yes.
So it's a nice, you know, chance to catch up with everyone, and you know, it's all hugs all around.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Like, you know, we've walked around the halls together and we're just like, hey, let's go for a walk and go check out new stuff. And you know, that's always the fun part for me, is like I like walking around with an artist, especially so I can like see what they're interested in and like what's eye catching, because that's really, you know, helpful for us with like product development and stuff too. It's just like, you know, what are the things that you really love? And, you know, of course, Yamaha makes excellent gear in all parts of the industry.
Right.
You know, so we're always trying to be on the cutting edge of things. And, you know, it's like we're always trying to update products and stuff. I know you have a cool guitar with you right now, testing out something a little special, hopefully to come.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, and you're holding that Revstar that we made you as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you were starting to talk about how that you've kind of feed off of artists.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, we'll have to start talking about history, at least my history with Yamaha, because Yamaha's really, really special to me.
Yeah, how'd you get involved?
It's been a really long relationship. But the thing I love is that I love getting a call or an email saying, hey, could you come by and take a look at this?
Yeah.
Or let me know what you think about this before anybody else knows it exists. Like, yeah, I love that. That's to me, that's really exciting. And there's been some really wacky ones over the years where I've gone in and you know, there's a group of guys from Japan, brilliant minds that are sitting there waiting for me to react to what they just did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that. I mean, well, through you know, since the pandemic has happened, I just came and dropped off a guitar. I called you up and I said, hey, we're testing out this new thing. Do you want to come check it out? Or I said, can I drop this off to you? You know, it's like, those are the kinds of things that we're always trying to do, get your opinion. And
it's super cool, and I don't want to give it back.
All right, we'll figure it out. Yeah. So, you know, that's been a big part of, you know, our relationship with artists is kind of using you as a sounding board, and really like you've been a part of a lot of cool products: trans acoustic guitar, silent guitar, a lot of acoustics, plenty of the electrics. You've been playing, you know, Revstar now, but you played SBG, you played Pacifica. The Pacifica I made you, we lovingly refer to as Krispy Kreme.
Yep.
Right? Because it's like a Mary Kay white finish, and it looks like a glazed donut, which, you know, that's my favorite color. If I could, I would paint almost every guitar that color. That and like the dog hair black with the white green filler finish. Those are like my two favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get involved? Like, what was your first Yamaha guitar?
Well, I had played some Yamaha guitars when I was younger, and tried some. I always thought they were cool. I never owned one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had borrowed a Yamaha FG, like way back, like maybe early '80s. I borrowed an FG from somebody. Played some old nylon strings that were really cool. But then it was early 2000s, maybe it was 2000 or 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it was 2002, because it was when I think I just started with Christina. That was 2002. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Almost 20 years.
And Paul Rivera Jr., who I've been, you know, Paul's one of my great friends, and trust him with anything. and Paul Revere Jr. and Paul Revere Sr. both geniuses. And I love Revere amps. I have a long-standing relationship with them.
Yeah.
Since the '90s. And Paul Jr. was the first one to say, "Hey, Yamaha's making some really cool electric guitars. You should go and check them out."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Where? Japan?" He was like, "No, Weddington. In North Hollywood." So
Yeah.
he took me over there, and that's when I met Ken, and Eric Gorish was there at the time, and who else was there?
Was Leo?
Don Codesi was there.
Yeah.
So my first, I think my first Yamaha at that point was an acoustic. It was an LLX. I want to say it was an LLX 500, maybe.
Okay.
If I'm getting my numbers and letters right.
Sure.
Still an amazing guitar. Like I actually discovered it recently when I had to pack all my guitars up and put them into cases and move stuff around because we were doing all kinds of work on our house. So I had to move about 50 guitars out of one room.
Wow.
But yeah, I found that guitar and I realized how amazing it is all over again. And I did like a lot of the initial promo stuff with Christina with that guitar.
That's awesome.
And then the next guitar was the Mike Stern Tele Pacifica.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I thought, I kind of wanted to swap the humbucker and the single coil, put the humbucker in the bridge and a single coil in the neck, and add a Fishman power bridge because I was used to doing the playing the acoustic stuff off my electric. I was playing Parker guitars for a while throughout the '90s.
Yeah.
At the end of the '90s, and the thing I loved about those guitars was the acoustic output.
Oh yeah, I have two. Well, I have one still, but I had two of those, and
they were super cool.
Yeah, but I mean, so we actually put a lot of that into this guitar and into Krispy Kreme as well. We put the Fishman.
Yeah.
We put the power bridge in there.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 Yamaha electrics with the Fishman power bridge.
That's cool.
And they're all badass.
Awesome.
So the first was that Mike Stern Pacifica, which I still love. It's a natural, and then the backup for that Eric had made was like a bright yellow one.
Yes.
Like canary yellow with a white, like kind of like a white marble pick guard and some Duncans, and it screamed, and that was my workhorse for like 10 years.
That's crazy. That's cool. I mean, yeah, you really have been loyal for many, many years, and when you're on stage, it's like every picture I see is you with a Yamaha. So it looks like they've held up. I mean, how has it been? Like, has Christina been your longest gig? Have you been playing with her?
Yeah, it's been 18 years. So that's a pretty long-standing gig.
Yeah, and you're flying all over the place. I know you flew to like Dubai, and like, didn't you guys play the Malaysian GP, like the Formula One race?
Yeah, we did.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's like so cool.
Actually, no. The one in Malaysia got canceled while we were there. We ended up playing in a ballroom instead of playing outside at the big.
Oh wow!
Because it was after that the plane crash had happened in Malaysia. And, I think on our way there is when we found out they were pulling the plug on the show. There was supposed to be this giant concert outside in between the towers, and but we did do another. We did one in, I want to say it was Azerbaijan.
Yeah, in Baku.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a relatively recent race. I'm a huge Formula One nerd, so like I love all that stuff.
Yeah, we did a Formula One thing in Baku. I want to say it was like maybe 3 years ago.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, that was fun.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, So it's like you've traveled everywhere, like you've played with everyone, and you know, in your travels, like have the guitars held up, or like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, are you using only one guitar a night, or you know, when you're traveling these gigs, like what are you using? Like, I know you got backline often, so like you're using your Riveras, you're using Helix, you're using all sorts of stuff. I mean, you've got more gear than like almost anybody I know, aside from Andrew Bonica, the guy I used to work with, you know, with a million guitars. So yeah, what's your you know, hop on the plane and go rig?
That for a fly date, it is, you know, Rivera is always first on the list for amps, but it's kind of not the easiest amp to find. So
Sure.
you know, a lot of times it's whatever I can get. Either it might be a matchless, or it might be a you know, Fender like Hot Rod DeVille, which is a really consistent amp. No matter where you go in the world, you can get a Hot Rod DeVille and it's going to sound exactly like the last one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one thing I love about those amps, and they're super loud. The 410 is I love it.
410 is super loud.
So
Yeah.
that's really cool, and I just fly with the Helix, and I use the Helix in the 4-cable or 7-cable method.
Yeah, because you run like stereo or something, right?
Yeah, I run stereo amps and stereo effects. So the Helix is going through the effects loops, and changing channels on the amps, and
Yeah.
took me a little while to get a handle on that. But once I set the Helix up that way, there's kind of no turning back. And
Yeah,
it's been controlling my rig ever since for like the last like 3 years, and I have some mega pedal boards. So like there's one that Trevor Cole put together for me that's super ridiculous, amazing pedal board, but I haven't been using it. I've been using the Helix, and it's and I'm so happy with it. It's got like every possible sound I could need, and for fly dates it's so much easier.
Yeah.
And then I have a little satellite board that goes with it that's got like my acoustic preamp and a couple of overdrive pedals that I put in loops.
Your essentials, you know, it's like your things you can't live without. But that's so cool to hear. I mean, more and more, I think folks are using, you know, Helix as a fly rig, especially since we got the little Helix backpack, right? You can just, you know, bring a guitar or two. I was going to talk about your pedal board, which is crazy. I think the last time I saw it in full effect, it was you and Tarek, and I think it was
we were doing a TV show.
Yes, you were rehearsing, and man, it was like a Bradshaw switcher that you had on there or something, where it's just
it was an RJM switcher.
Yeah. Okay. And then it was just like, it was madness, all the crazy, and I was just like, how do you sync all this stuff up and like think of all, it's just.
And I had the Helix on the side. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I did see the Helix on the side too. I was just like, what are you doing? This is crazy.
I've done gigs where I've used a pedal board. I actually did this with Magnolia Memoir, a band that I've been involved with for a while. Yeah. I've done some records with them, and you know, one of my favorite bands to create with. Shows that I was doing with them, I used a pedal board and 2 amps, like my small pedal board, which just had a couple of overdrive pedals, some delay stuff, some reverb, 2 amps. Then I split my signal. I had the acoustic signal going DI, so there was that's 3 outputs right there, and then I had the electric split going to the Helix, and then stereo outs from the Helix. So it's like I'd have a completely like sparkly, shiny, chorusy sound coming from the Helix, and then an overdrive sound coming from the amp in stereo with delays, and then the acoustic sound going at the same time.
That's so killer. It's like it's changed from like the wall of sound being just like these stacks of amps to like, oh no, I got one in the corner and one in that corner, and it's also coming through the PA, and it's just like you're getting hit with this full effect.
Right, multiple sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, the Pumpkins do a lot of like really like amazing mixing and stuff too. Jeff does like some really killer stuff with his sounds, you know. But that's awesome. So I mean, your guitars are cool. So let's talk a little bit about your Revstar, and we can talk a little bit about that Krispy Kreme Pacifica as well. They're actually just like stock guitars for the most part. We just do a couple of modifications to them. So the Revstar is actually, it's based on the 820. So the RS 820, a guitar that you can buy at, you know, your local music store or online or wherever. And we actually did like a custom paint job, and we just made sure that we routed it for a neck P90 because you had played, I guess, a few of the other Pacificas too that had like the the bridge humbucker neck P90.
Yeah, and I fell in love with that, like that combination with a 5-way switch. Oh man.
Yeah, so we actually Takashi, who was an expat from Japan that was working with us and now is like one of the bosses of guitar engineering, came up with a really cool switch pattern. We just used that standard P90 and a humbucker in the bridge, and with 4 conductor we can actually come up with like a really cool kind of series parallel combinations.
It's such it covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
It really does. That's what I love about this combination of humbucker and P90 with a 5-way switch. It really does cover a lot of ground because you kind of get a little bit of each guitar that's essential.
Yeah.
You can get a Les Paul type thing. You can get a Telly thing. You can get a Strat thing, and the neck P90 is just one of my favorite tones.
Yeah, and yeah, we had Chris Buck on last week who was talking about, you know, you and he are like some of the only guys that ask for P90s, right? And I think it's like such an unsung kind of pickup because it does have that like sweet single coil kind of sound, especially in the neck position, nice and fat, and you can get like those kind of closer to humbucker, kind of woolly, darker sounds, but without it being too over the top, too muddy. And then we put that Fishman Power Bridge, but I think the thing that probably stands out the most to folks is that it has that crazy paint job, the blue sparkle.
It's so sparkly.
Yes. So the paint job was done by Marty Bell in like the San Diego area. He's like known for doing all the sparkle finishes for everyone, and he did a really killer job on this one. So you said you wanted something that stuck out on stage, and when the lights hit it, it really does shine. And then we did it, I made like the aluminum pick guard and back plate and truss rod cover and stuff like that for it. So it's a unique one. Yeah, your fish logo.
And the oh wow, I didn't realize that. I think we broke another.
Oh, you broke the battery.
Yeah, we broke another cavity cover. So I think I have another one somewhere. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
But right on top of that, it says "Feed me."
Yeah. So like, yeah. Every guitar I make, I try and do like a little something on there as like like a little Easter egg. So I engraved "Feed me" with a little lightning bolt next to the battery box, because not everybody has active electronics. So it's and I know, with you, it's, I could pull a little joke or something in there, and you'll appreciate it. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, this guitar and the Pacifica are like the same. They're just kind of, they're kind of twins, Gemini twins in a way. It's like
they feel a little different. They sound different, but they both cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, where the Pacifica is that 25.5-inch scale. It's a bolt-on. And the nut width is a little narrower, whereas the Revstar is that 43mm wide nut, and the Pacifica is like a 41. They're covering a little bit different territory, but I think with the two of them, how many shows do you think you played with both those guitars?
Oh man, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine to. God, I couldn't imagine to calculate that. I have no idea. Because when I got the Pacifica, I mean, I'll hold up Krispy Kreme for a second. When you did this one, I was with New Kids on the Block at that time.
Yeah.
Might have been New Kids and Backstreet Boys, or maybe no, it was New Kids and Boys to Men and 98 Degrees. We were doing like all three.
Yeah, you played in like each band or something like that. So yeah, that's cool.
So that's when this one came into play, and I was like, I don't need anything else.
Yeah, how many years ago was that? Because I thought I remembered that guitar being like one of the first like cool custom guitars that I put together.
Yeah, was it 2012 maybe? When did you start a Yamaha?
2013. So yeah, that makes sense. Somewhere around there.
2013. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like one of the first. Yeah, and I made that. It's another aluminum pickguard, but we polished that one up.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I love is, you like a guitar that stands out, something that looks really cool on stage. It's like you're putting on the show, man. Got to put on the show. Got to look the part, and you always dye your goatee a cool color. I always like Prince purple, or I've seen neon green. I know you got Truth into it too.
Yeah. He's got several different colors in his hair. Yeah,
he's the coolest. Yeah. So
to me, these are like Swiss Army guitars.
Yeah.
They kind of cover everything, no matter what the style is, no matter what the genre is. Sound wise, I mean, all the electric sounds I pretty much need on a gig are there.
Yeah.
And then there's the acoustic side.
Yeah.
Which usually blows people away. Like front of house guys are usually like, "What? How are you doing that? How does it sound that good?"
Extra switch and a knob, and so it's just a magnetic volume, magnetic tone, and then the piezo volume, and then there's like a three-way switch, so you can have just mags, just the piezo, or a mix between the two of them, and it's a really powerful combination. I always loved kind of that. If you don't have to switch a guitar on stage, that's like a huge deal.
Yeah.
For most guys, especially a player such as yourself that's like playing with so many different bands, and you think about, it's a little different than like a traditional rock band setup, right? Where you have like a large band and there's like a lot of, people to take care of. So it's like, I think in your position, you might be a little bit more like you have to take care of your own stuff sometimes, or you have to be like, you have your tech Trevor who's always helping you out, but it's like you have to be a little bit more cognizant of some of those things, gear change and changing sound.
Yeah, I have to think about it. Well, Trevor's been off working on different projects for the last couple of years, and Matt McKenna's been working with me for the last year or so.
Cool.
Having a great tech who you can rely on is super important.
Yeah.
And I really don't have to think about the gear much. I have to think about it concept wise.
Yeah.
And how I want it to be. Like, if we got an upcoming tour, I'm pretty much going to stick with the rig I have, unless there's something outrageous that has to happen.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's just a matter of adding a wireless, or several different wireless units into the mix.
Yeah.
But my rig is pretty solid, and it's not. It seems like it gets more complicated when a tech gets involved, for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I just remember coming to like some of those rehearsals and stuff, and it's just like there's a percussion, section, or there's the orchestral section, and it's just like it gets huge. So I think having the tech is really great, because it does take your mind off a lot of it. But maybe I'm thinking more about like how you think about, I'm going to play this gig. There's this many songs. How many sounds do I need? Yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah. So you need something to cover a lot of bases. You need a backup. You need all that kind of gear going in there.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, you played with Christina for so long, and you played with like Tony Braxton. I'm curious more about like the stuff you did with like Tupac and Nas and stuff like that. Like, what were those projects like?
That was strictly studio.
Yeah.
I had been playing on a bunch of posthumous Tupac stuff. I was brought in by Claudio Cowini, he's a sonic genius, amazing engineer. He was recording, re-recording a lot of the posthumous stuff, and he brought me in to play guitar on a bunch of stuff, and then we ended up writing and producing a song called Thug's Mansion, which was just acoustic guitars and Tupac.
It's cool.
And that became a single, and it became a video, and I was in the video, my first Yamaha acoustic in that video.
That's wild.
And then Nas loved it. Nas ended up doing a verse on it. So there's a version with just Tupac. There's a version with Nas and Tupac.
Yeah.
So it ended up on several albums, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool experience. I mean, I wasn't a huge Tupac fan. I always dug his stuff. I always thought he was a great rapper. But I didn't really get into him until I started working on those projects, and I started listening to his lyrics and discovered what an amazing storyteller he was.
Yeah.
Especially listening to his acapellas, like sitting there when you just sit and listen to just the rap, no track.
Yeah, there's so many avenues of music. It's impossible to absorb everything.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, in my personal listening, like, there's a large gap, for country music. Like I don't really listen to much, country music, or I haven't listened to as much hip hop as I have, like, metal or classic rock and things like that, just because I don't know, that's what I ended up listening to. But like lately I've been listening to like more Tribe Called Quest and stuff. So it's, you get into things, and it's cool to kind of have like like phases where you're like learning something, or you're listening to something and you get like a new influence and stuff. And I think it's cool to have like that really diverse kind of influence on guitar playing, because traditionally guitars are seen as, it's like you're a soloist, or you're seen as like playing in a rock band, or you're seen as a shred guy, or just straight up jazz guitar. There are like kind of some chosen lanes for guitar.
Right. I think the way I always approached it was kind of the way I grew up listening to music. I grew up in Philly, which is a very diverse city, in a lot of different ways, and especially artistically. There was so much different kinds of music coming out of Philly. A lot of soul music, and a lot of there were some great rock bands too. Great, amazing jazz artists. So Philly was kind of a melting pot of music. So I kind of played everything.
Yeah.
I played in a rock band. I played in a funk band. I played in the orchestra at school doing the classical stuff. The only thing that wasn't readily available when I was a kid was country, because it was Philly.
Yeah.
And I didn't really discover country and get more into country music until a little bit later in life, probably in my 20s and 30s, when I started realizing that, I had listened to Chet Atkins, but I didn't really think of Chet Atkins being country.
It's like almost like sport guitar. Right. It's like, geez, how many fingers does this guy have? He's just like listening to everything. It's like he's getting paid by the note, or like, it's crazy. And you said you went to Detroit too, so it's like Motown is like so cool. I love all that stuff. And I, a few times I've come out to see you play. I think you played a show in North Hollywood, I remember, with like Courtney Leonard and stuff, and like what was that?
Yeah, we had a band called Invented Like Stars. It was me and Courtney and Chris Johnson, Tim Carmen. There was different keyboard players that came in and out, and also
that was funky, man.
David Smith also played bass on with that band for a handful of shows. But it was strictly improv. It was just friends wanting to get together and play, and play. I don't know. Let's play whatever. It didn't matter. It was just improv every Sunday.
Yeah.
And that turned into Trevor would come out and record every Sunday, and that turned into listening back and saying, okay, this piece is really cool. This groove we did for like 30 minutes was really cool.
Yeah.
This groove we did for another 30 minutes was really cool. So let's put those together and shorten them, and then take the other one. And so we kind of built some stuff, created some songs, did some rehearsing, and it started to feel like a band. We did a couple of events at NAMM Show one year. We did the All-Star Guitar Night.
Oh yeah,
we did that one, and that was awesome. And it felt like we had some momentum, and then we all went back to work, and then
well, everybody played in huge bands. I mean, Courtney was playing with Beyonce, right? And like everybody it was just like a who's who of like killers. I
ended up going back out with Christina. Chris Johnson went. I think he got the gig with Gaga at the time, and so it was like gone. We kind of fell apart, but we'll come back together eventually.
Well, that's the nature of music, right? It's always kind of like, I think a ways back it was more common for a band to go on the road and play, all weekend at one bar and then get paid pretty well. And they can make a living doing that, where things, in the modern age have kind of shifted and people have had to find more sources of income or, just kind of work in a different way on social media or, having a YouTube channel or whatever it is, giving lessons, gear reviews, things like that. And, you guys go on the road, you got to pay the bills. And I really want to see more musicians kind of doing that thing and people coming out and supporting musicians and to listen to interesting, funky music. It's like, I love coming and seeing you guys, just like really great musicians playing something at a bar with, you could have a set list or not, kind of like you guys did, and just groove. And it was like fun to listen to and have a few drinks and,
Well, we did it. We did it because first of all, because we loved each other. We're friends. We want to hang out. While we're hanging out, let's just play some music and have a conversation. Yeah. And that's what we did, and that's an awesome thing. I mean, to me, that's like the best gig ever. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter if anybody's listening. We were playing for ourselves. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're having a good time, other people will have a good time with you. It's like, you could tell when you see the musicians like smiling and enjoying themselves. And you guys are all like the utmost professionals. Like, you guys are so good that it's just hard not to have fun. Yeah. And speaking to that and working with people you love and love working with. I mean, let's talk about your new projects, the things that you've been working on recently while you've been home. So you were talking about this artist, Money. So tell us a little bit more about that. Money is she's really unique. I don't know how to describe her. She's got a voice it's a unique voice. She's awesome. I don't really know how to describe her. I don't know how to describe the genre, because she writes really, really sad songs. Like, her lyrics are really, really sad. Sure. And and it's just to help her get out of whatever place she's in. And I kind of took a lot of the music a little more upbeat. So you've got some really sad songs that are more upbeat, happy sounding. Sure. And we've been working that way for several years now, and it's finally coming together. We've got a ton of songs. We're ready to start releasing some music. So there's the first single and video are going to be coming out pretty soon. Like, I'd say within the next month. Cool. We should have a release date pretty soon. Yeah. So you said you've been working on it for a few years, coming up. Yeah, it's been several years that she'll send me an idea, and I'll run away with it, thinking that I'm hopefully doing something that she's gonna love. And I don't know. We just seem to make cool music together. Yeah. It seems like a really, really cool artistic outlet for both of us. And I don't know, it's kind of different for me. Some of the music is electronic, and some of it's rock, and some of it's hip hop, and some of it's swing, and there's like the latest one has a bunch of horns on it. It's got a horn section on it. It's got, you know, it's kind of anything goes, which is what I love about it. She had no parameters when it came to her music, and she, like, when I first met her, she was coming out of the EDM world, which she was in a project that had just achieved like a fair amount of success, and she was making a switch, and we came together through a mutual friend, and been making music ever since. And we got like 18 songs now. They're almost ready to go.
That's cool. So, I mean, that's cool too. Like you're kind of pushing, I guess, maybe some of your boundaries, right? It's like, how often does a guitar player work on, you know, kind of EDM style music but you know,
at
playing
the same time, there's like within the EDM, like there might be some electronic stuff in the song, but I've also got a banjo and a resonator on the same song. So kind of shifting boundaries and kind of blurring the lines, which I think is fun too.
Yeah, like all the really interesting layering you can do now. I mean, the cool part about the way that the music industry has changed is the ability to collaborate over distance, right? So you have the ability to, you know, be at your home studio and maybe all you have is Logic, and, you know, you can get by with Logic in a Helix or Logic in a THR and record like all these guitar sounds, or, you know, you get Cubase, and then you just, you know, you're writing whatever you want, and then you just send a file, you know, you can file share whatever you want. And it is cool to see, you know, people becoming more diverse in their playing, and, you know, like what their you know, capabilities are in terms of like, oh, you know, it used to be a guitar player was just a guitar player, but now it's like, oh, you're a recording engineer, you're playing the bass, you're, you know, layering in banjo or mandolin, or, you know, you got to play, you know, the drum pads or whatever it is. And it's become like this really interesting, you know, world where it's like, if you have a MIDI controller, you can make just about anything, you know? So it's really cool. But I like to see that, you know, guitar specifically, I mean, guitar is, you know, something that you and I both really love. And I think a lot of listeners and, you know, people just in the guitar world, it's like a connection to just this one instrument. But you can make so many cool different sounds with guitar and play all these different styles of music and still, you know, stay relevant, stay up to date with, you know, like playing pop music. I mean, you're really, you know, that I would say influence to a lot of up and coming players to say like, look, you can play all the cool, crazy music you want and play in a pop band, and you can tour the world. And it's just like, that is really fun to be able to, you know, take all these diverse styles of music and then bring it to the stage where you're playing with Christina, or you're playing with, you know, whomever it is, New Kids on the Block, right? Or you know, the million, you know, playing with Mariah Carey. I remember setting up that white guitar for New Year's, right? Yeah.
Oh, for Times Square with Christina.
Yeah. That was Christina, or was it Mariah?
That was Christina. Yeah.
My memory is blurred. I got too many guitars I'm working on. I was soldering up wiring harnesses all morning, so I get a little lightheaded.
That sounds like
yeah. So
you know, the thing that I've always dug about, especially about the Christina gig, is the versatility.
Yeah.
And play different genres, because we might do a rock song, we might do a pop song, we'll go to hip hop, we'll go to Latin, where, you know, I'll have to pick up a nylon string. We'll go to it's just such a variety. You got to be on your toes and be versatile enough to.
Yeah, I'm just like forever envious of you and like Tarek and stuff. Like, you guys could read a chart like the first time, just like all the way down. It's crazy.
Guitarist can play. He can play anything.
Oh my God, it's just like insane.
And play it better than anyone else. He's so good.
But you know, it's like you guys got to this place and you played with all these stars because like you are so dedicated to your craft and you're like really working hard at, you know, pushing yourself to do more projects, to record. And, you know, I think that's a really good positive influence for, you know, up and coming guitar players today, just to say, hey, you know, it's like, it's something I need to improve upon, to like really work and, you know, really diversify my portfolio. You know, that's like such a corny phrase, but it's just like, you know, you have to be able to play everything, because you don't know when that gig's going to come up where, you know.
Well, if you want to do this as a job, you got to be ready to do anything. You know, if you want to play in a band and that's your focus, you put 100% into that, and you are that band. That's your sound, and that's what you go for, and that's an amazing thing. And playing with a bunch of different artists and playing with pop stars and playing with, you know, a variety of artists can make your head spin, because it's so many different sounds and so many different styles and so many different pieces of gear to think about and different guitars to think about and different textures, and some songs might not have guitar, which I love that challenge. You know, what the hell am I going to play? There's no guitar on this. That's when I become a sound designer.
Sure.
Which Helix has made things a lot easier in that respect, where I can just dial stuff in with the laptop on the fly while I'm playing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And create sounds for a specific song that don't have guitar and make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really what it takes to become the modern guitarist, and to, you know, be able to work and provide for yourself, for your family, you know, and you've had this like crazy, amazing career where like you've been able to, you know, patch all these things into like this just amazing discography of, you know, it's all the things you've done in the past, plus like all the cool new projects, and you're constantly working. And to me, like that kind of work ethic is just really impressive. You know, it's like everybody has to struggle these days, and I think, you know, you're kind of giving that I would say like influence or just that hope that like, hey, you stick it out, you keep playing, you play with lots of different people, and, you know, it's gonna happen, you know, and you're gonna be able to really put your talents to work. And, you know, I can't wait to hear your new music. And, you know, I love when you send me a track on my phone or something like that. You know, I gave you that guitar and you're like, oh yeah, I recorded with it. It sounds great. You know, it tells me that you're working, you know, you're doing something.
Yeah. Oh, it's constant. It's constant. I've been surprised at the amount of sessions I've been getting just over the last 3 or 4 months. Just, it's a pretty consistent flow of, hey, can you play on this song? Play on this song. Here's 2 songs I need you to play on. Here's this, here's that. And then an opportunity came up with Saida Garrett recently.
Yeah.
I don't know if you don't know Saida Garrett, look her up. You know her songs. She's amazing. She's one of the greatest songwriters in modern history. She wrote Man in the Mirror. She's written, you know, a ton of great hits for a lot of artists. But I've been working with Saida for the last 20 years, and she's an amazing writer. She's been an incredible partner to work with and create with. And we had written a song a couple of years ago called New Frontier, and it addressed social issues, and it addressed you know, young black men being killed.
Yeah.
And what she said, it's time to release this. We have to release this, but first I have to rewrite some lyrics. So she added some new names, which it shouldn't have to happen. You know,
No.
she shouldn't have had to rewrite lyrics and change names in a song that was already talking about these, you know, these young black men that were killed.
Yeah.
So she rewrote some lyrics. The song was released a couple weeks ago, and it's all proceeds go to Black Lives Matter.
Great. That's awesome.
I think it's an important song, you know, because of the lyrics and because of you know, she has a way of telling a story how it needs to be told and touching people with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I have a hard time coming up with words myself on how to say, you know, how disappointed I am, you know, that things have happened, you know, this way, and it continues to happen. And you see, you know, young people, colored black people just getting, you know, abused by, you know, the police or whatever. And it's a damn shame. And I'm really proud of you just being my friend, having worked on something like that. And, you know, all my friends that go and try and do something positive for the community. I think music is one of those avenues where, you know, the culture combines, and we've made lots of, you know, friends from all walks of life through music. And, you know, I got my cultural, you know, comeuppance and stuff when I went to college. You know, when I went to Berkeley, there's just people from all over the world. And it really opened my eyes to, you know, what it is to be a good person and to, you know, to work together. I mean, it's humanity, and, you know, music only, I think, brings humanity together. Right. And, you know, I think it's a really good, you know, it's a force for good, and it's a good avenue for people to, you know, like you said, you're writing dark lyrics, things that are sad, and then you put some bright guitar over it to try and ease it up. But, you know, it's poetry. It's a way to get out your emotions in a positive manner, you know, that other people can relate to. So, you know,
if music can heal in any kind of way, that's, you know, that I think that's the most important thing that it can do.
Yeah.
And that's, man, I've learned that over the years, and it's definitely healed me in a lot of ways and helped me in a lot of ways, which, you know, I'm sure it has countless others, you know, millions of people that have heard a song and say, oh, maybe things aren't that bad, you know, or they've heard a song and said, oh shit, I got to do something. I got to do something about that.
Yeah. And I think it energizes people. You know, it's like people listen to music to work out, to get energized, right? They get it to, you know, get pumped up. But really, I think it's a cause for change too. And I think, you know, all the music that we love today, I mean, all of it is of Black culture in America. I mean, you think about jazz music being influenced by Black Americans. You think
rock and roll, man. Rock and roll.
Music, you know, it's like Jimi Hendrix, or, you know, it's any number of Black musicians that have just done amazing things for our industry. And we love to listen to them. And, you know, like Little Richard and stuff, it's just like, that's rock and roll. And, you know,
rock and roll would not be what it is if it wasn't for Little Richard, if it wasn't for Chuck Berry.
Yeah, you know, so jazz, rock, hip hop, pop music today, it's all, you know, it's without having to say that, you know, it's heavily, you know, majorly, the majority of influence comes from Black America. And, you know, I'm eternally grateful for it. And when you learn about guitar history and music history in the guitar world, you look at like Wes Montgomery and everyone, you know, obviously Helix is the big one, but it's just like, that's really where we get everything from. And we enjoy guitar and playing guitar all these times, but it's like, you know, have reverence for the people that really charted territory, played the Chitlin circuit, were abused on the road, you know, not paid. Whatever it was.
All the guys that played on the Motown records, the early Motown records before they came out to LA.
Yeah.
The funk records. I mean, that's an amazing history. And they created that sound. Yeah.
The Meters, you know, or old Motown or whatever it is. It's just like, it's awesome. And I love it. You know, it's, you know, I think people just need to see themselves in other people. and really, I think with music, it's like everybody's mouth is closed, but your ears are open,
Yep.
and you get to communicate in this other way. Of course, you're singing.
Music crosses so many cultural boundaries, and especially if you listen to world music, you can listen to music from every corner of the world.
Yeah.
I was pretty young the first time I heard South African music, and then by the first time I went to South Africa and to do a gig, and I played with a bunch of South African musicians, I had listened to a bunch of South African music, and I knew some of the history, and I knew some of the players, and I knew some of the songs. But man, was my mind blown when I got to play with musicians in that element.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I learned so much from that experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to learn from everywhere, right? There's so much to learn from everyone across the globe. Like there's jazz, and then there's like Brazilian jazz, and like all the Afro-Cuban beats, and then you think about like all the polyrhythmic things that come out of African tribal music or whatever it is. And it's just like there are like all the cool gent metal music with the polyrhythms and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where that's invented, guys. It's like, or all the really intense harmony that it takes, like to be a high level like jazz musician and be able to understand and hear all the harmony and stuff, and then be able to solo over it and stuff. It's like incredible brain power, and it's just like not recognized in the world at large. We just we read the news or whatever it is, and it gets everybody riled up, but it's like, sit back, listen to some music, get educated by your peers, learn about other people's lives, where they grew up, all those things. I mean, growing up in Philly, it's like, that's a much different thing than where I grew up, I recognize that.
You weren't too far away.
I grew up about an hour and a half from New York City,
but
in Connecticut, it's like, it's not the same thing. So, but if you're living in the middle of a big city and stuff, it's different. So I think, you really do get cultured, and you get, to learn from your brothers and sisters, be it by blood or by, your friends or the family you pick for yourself. Right. So you just think about like everybody you learn from. And I think that's, amazing to just, when I look at your career and I think of all the people that you worked with, it's just like, I think that's really cool. It's got this really great background where it's like you've touched every part of the industry. And while you've played a lot of pop gigs, you've played all sorts of different music. And, I think that's something to aspire to as an up and coming guitarist, no matter who you are, where you're from. I think if every musician or every person, grew up and said like, I want to be like Fish when I grow up, like that's amazing. So,
I think I always thought do it because you love it.
Yeah.
And the rest will come.
Yeah.
And
well,
I'm still doing that, and
it's
still
still
discovering new things. Like yesterday, I'm scoring a film right now. I'm in the middle of this film score, and it's definitely cross-cultural. I'm playing a lot of Chinese instruments because
cool.
there's a China, like a mystical Chinese aspect to the movie. There's sections of the movie that take place in Mexico. There's all kinds of different cross-cultural things that happen in this movie. And one of the first couple scenes in the film, there's a car chase that's going on through Arizona, like through the desert, and there's a turtle, and I ended up playing a bunch of banjo and dobro tracks. So
cool.
Really, really interesting blend of music that I'm playing right now, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think I've been asking this question to everybody. Like the last question I ask is, what's something that you learned on the road that's been helping you while you're in quarantine, while you're home? you know, what is something, a piece of advice you can give? You know, I know that there's so much going on in the world right now, but I think, you know, you're full of wisdom and you got a lot of great stories. You've been through a lot. Like, what, give us a pearl, you know?
Oh man. Something that I think, well, you know, when you're on the road and you're whether you're on an amazing tour bus or in a van, you're in close quarters and you're seeing the same people every day and you know, day in, day out. You're with the same people. It's you gotta be cool. You gotta keep a cool head. You gotta, you know, no matter what, you're all looking for the same outcome, and everybody wants to be happy. So that's why. I mean, I don't feel like I'm stuck at home.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like it's, you know, it's another day here. It's another day with my family, and it's awesome.
Yeah, the family band. You're on the road, at home, right? And
yeah, I think patience is something I learned on the road too.
Yeah.
You have to be patient. You got a lot of personalities happening, and you gotta be patient. And I tend to kind of sit back and watch first.
Yeah.
Not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not easy to just watch.
No.
But that's my goal, is to try and get to that point where I can analyze before I react.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And you know, that the phrase "cooler heads prevail," right? And that's a good ethos to live by. Well, if people want to check out more about you, they want to check out more of your music, where could they check you out? Your social media accounts?
Yeah, probably social media. Colorblind Fish on social media, on Instagram. My website, colorblindfish.com, which needs an overhaul greatly, which you discovered recently that, you know, somebody had definitely hacked my site and put up some funny car stuff on your page. So that's going to be going through an overhaul very soon. And I am actually going to put up some gear pictures and explanations, and I really want to get into that. I want to find the time, make the time to explain some of the gear I've used on the road, and especially since I've been taking pictures of all my gear and going through inventory. And there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen in years, and there's definitely some gems in my storage.
Yeah, I'd love to see it, and maybe you can grace us with a cool Helix patch or something like that.
Yeah, I've got a ton of them.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, Fish, thanks so much for joining me. I miss you. I hope we get to get lunch sometime soon.
Yeah, we will.
Take care of the family, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.